What's going on, guys? It's Bruce Matson, your host of the show, Metric Scout Fantasy Football. The show that talks about all things fantasy from redraft, dynasty, DFS. Hit that subscribe button if that's something you're into. But we got to have a come to Jesus meeting today. We need to talk about Lamar Jackson, and I see a lot of hatred on social media about him able to throw the deep ball, about his fantasy prowess, even though he's been a lock these last few years. You're talking about QB1 in 2019, QB8 2020, and has been good every time he's been under center pretty much as a fantasy football asset. With the additions of Rashod, Bateman, Tylan, Wallace to the passing offense, if they hit, we could see a Konami code that is just so powerful that it just takes over the league. If Rashod Bateman blows up Justin Jefferson style, like we're seeing right now in training camp, he's blowing past dudes in training camp. We're seeing that on Twitter, on the videos. One by one, he's shaking out routes, shaking out DBs, top 10 DBs already as a rookie in training camp, and Lamar Jackson's going to have that at his disposal. Last year, Lamar Jackson averaged 8.9 air yards per attempt. He slings the rock. He slings it downfield. People talk about how inaccurate he is downfield, but he was fifth in the league with a 13.8% completion rate of 20-plus yard attempts. So he can connect downfield. His receivers just got to bring it in. His receivers have been the problem here. The narrative with Lamar Jackson is that he can only beat bad teams. That's the narrative. He can only beat bad teams. But the truth is, his wide receivers can only get open against bad secondaries. Outside of that, if they're playing a good team, a good defense, they got lock-on corners, they're playing man, and they're just playing contain with the D-line, Lamar's gonna struggle. And they talk about how bad his decision-making is. They talk about how he makes poor decisions, how he's inaccurate at times. How's he going to move the ball downfield if he's going to play conservative if his wide receivers aren't getting open? He's going to have to make some risks. He's going to have to sling the ball. That's where those plays come from. Rashod Bateman coming in, it's going to change the game. And many people are sleeping on Rashod Bateman because they were all over Devonta Smith coming into the draft. They're thinking of last year's wide receiver prospects. He went to Minnesota, not a sexy school. Went later in the first round to the Ravens. But we're talking about a wide receiver who broke out at age 18 with a 25% market share while sharing the field with Tyler Johnson. Followed that up with a 37% market share of Minnesota's passing production. And then last year, the weird COVID year, where he only played 5 games, owned a 47% share of the entire passing offense. Minnesota was horrendous. He dipped out early on him. Smart move on him. At age 20, though, 47% share of the passing offense. That is about as immaculate as you can get. Then the Ravens made another smart move. They drafted Tylan Wallace in the 4th round. And he broke out at age 19 for Oklahoma State. Another early breakout candidate. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. Some speed here. But at age 19, he had a 37% market share of his team's passing production. Followed that up the following year at age 20 with a 33% share. But that was the year he tore his ACL. So he couldn't go out for the draft. He was damaged goods. Had to come back this year. After a torn ACL. Came back in 2020 at age 21, his senior season, and owned a 34% market share of the team's passing production. So he did everything he needed to do at the college level. He was damaged goods coming out. Part of the reason why he fell in the draft. Another reason why his talent was so diluted that good players are going to fall. There's so many good wide receivers in this draft. Tylan Wallace has got speed. He can make plays downfield. He's a very nuanced route runner. He can play in slot. He can play on the outside. And the addition of him, along with Rashod Bateman, makes this offense nasty. They also got Marquise Brown still. Field stretcher, owned a 25% target share last year. Lots of air yards. He's going to be the air yard guy in the offense. He's going to get the deep targets. He's going to stretch the field. He's going to allow Rashod Bateman to work underneath. We'll see what Tylan Wallace does. But with them taking this many shots at the pinata, with these talented wide receivers, one of them's eventually going to hit. Rashod Bateman looks like he's going to be the next alpha. Mark my words on that. I'm never wrong. That's why I'm Mr. Perfect. But Rashod Bateman is a world-class machine. But let's circle back. Let's circle back to Lamar Jackson here real quick. And everyone wants to be down on him, even though he's been good over the first couple years. He hasn't been immaculate, he hasn't been perfect, but you're talking about a 23-year-old guy having to do everything on the offense, because this team is 31st in the league with money spent on the offensive side of the ball, and that was in 2020, that's in 2021, and they were 30th in the league in 2019. So it's not like he's been working with the resources necessary to be productive or be efficient or be the best at his craft to maximize his opportunities. You're talking about a guy who's been working with Marquise Brown, Willie Snead, Mark Andrews, Michael Crabtree when it first started, John Brown, just some ancillary jabronis, but he's never had an alpha wide receiver. This is what we're hoping to get with Rashod Bateman, who looks the part. And if you don't know now, you're going to know later. He's blowing it up in camp right now, blew it up in college, first-round pick, and it's going to be very exciting to see what this kid can do. But in 2019, from a fantasy football perspective, because we're going to dial that in from a fantasy football perspective right now, he had 13 QB1 weeks, 9 weeks with over 30 fantasy points. You can't get much more stable than that with that much upside. The following year, last year, which was kind of considered a bad year for him, when it wasn't bad at all. It was actually a decent year. He had 9 QB1 weeks and 4 weeks with over 30 fantasy points. Very solid. The Konami code is there. He's breaking the game with his Konami code. He's got a new Konami code. He's got 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He has no QB3 weeks on his career whatsoever and only 7 QB2 weeks in 2 years. So you got a very high floor and QB1 to the moon upside with this guy. So in fantasy football, you have to draft him. You have to pull the trigger on him, because now he's got more assets in the passing game that he can work with on top of his rushing ability. I'm expecting this team to be a little bit more fast-paced. I'm expecting this team to pass a little bit more, because they're kind of showing that with their moves here. Drafting 2 wide receivers, drafting 2 last year, and drafting Marquise Brown in the first round. They want wide receivers to hit. They want it so bad. They're going to finally get it. It's probably going to be with Rashod Bateman, and he's probably going to blow up the league. I guarantee you that. But Lamar Jackson is a player that you should not hate on at all. He has the potential to take this team to the Super Bowl with Rashod Bateman. But if Rashod Bateman hits, I'm talking Justin Jefferson style hits, CeeDee Lamb style type of hit like last year. We're talking Ravens to the Super Bowl this year. Lamar Jackson can sling it all over the field. If he's got a guy that can separate with routes, with speed, quickness, technique, a la Rashod Bateman, a la possibly Tylan Wallace, maybe somebody like Devin Duvernay may sneak in there. They got talent on top of talent here. Lamar Jackson will lead this team to the Super Bowl. I guarantee it. With that being said, from a fantasy football perspective, Rashod Bateman has more upside than what you're thinking. Talent over situation. Rashod Bateman's got the talent to outshine all situations. Lamar Jackson can fuel it. He has a really pretty ball. He can sling it all over the field. He has a better arm than what you think. He's more accurate than what you think. Things will get cleared up once he gets better wide receiver play. Once he gets an alpha. Once he gets a guy that consistently gets open for him with nuance, with separation. He has never had that. He's going to have it soon. The troops are coming. Don't be scared of Lamar Jackson. If this all comes to fruition, if Rashod Bateman blows up this year, Ravens, Super Bowl. They're going to the Super Bowl. If Rashod Bateman blows up, I'm talking Justin Jefferson type play, Ravens are going to the Super Bowl, because that's what they need. That's what this team needs. They're stacked at defense. Lamar Jackson's just breaking the game with his Konami code, with how he can run the ball, with how he just switches things up with his legs and then being able to throw the ball. I am not speaking out of pocket here. Rashod Bateman's got the talent to turn things around for this team. If you're not down with that, if you're not seeing it, you eventually will. I want to thank you for watching the show, sticking with me. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Ring the bell. Tell your homies, and I'll catch you next time.